10 hours. That's how long Chloe Martinez survived in a negative 50-degree freezer, 8 months pregnant with twins locked inside by her own husband. Victor didn't just abandon her. He stood outside listening
have to
to
go.
her beg over
Now.
the intercom,
I can't,
then
they're so
drove away
cold.
to collect
I'll
$2
carry
million
them. Take this.
in life
I'm
insurance.
scared.
But the man who found her wasn't a hero. He was Victor's enemy. The billionaire Victor destroyed 7 years ago. And what started as rescue became the greatest revenge story neither of them planned. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you missed all the warning signs they wanted you gone? Chloe Martinez stood in the industrial freezer, her breath already turning to mist. The digital display on the wall read negative 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Her light maternity dress, pale blue cotton. Victor's suggestion this morning provided no protection. The cold bit through the thin fabric, immediately sharp teeth sinking into skin. The metal door had slammed shut with a sound she would hear in nightmares for the rest of her life. The lock clicked, then silence. The kind of silence that screams. 29 years old, 8 months pregnant with twins, standing in a pharmaceutical storage freezer in Detroit on a November night while her husband walked away. The mathematics of it felt surreal. Chloe's mind struggled to process the transition from normal Tuesday evening to this frozen tomb in the span of 20 minutes. Victor's voice crackled through the intercom speaker mounted near the ceiling, that voice she'd loved for 5 years. That voice that whispered promises in the dark, that laughed at her jokes, that said her name like it mattered. "I'm sorry, Chloe, I really am." She moved toward the door. Her hands found the handle, industrial steel already cold enough to burn. She pulled. Nothing. Pulled again, harder, desperation flooding her limbs. The same motion people make when checking a locked door, knowing it won't open but unable to stop trying. Her hands shook, not from cold yet, from something worse. Recognition. "Derek Victor, please. This isn't funny." His name came out wrong. She'd almost said Derek. Why? Her brain scrambled, grasping for logic in chaos. No answer. Just the hum of refrigeration units working overtime to maintain temperatures that would kill a human being in hours. She pressed her palm against the frozen metal. "Let me out. Please. The babies." His voice cut through her plea, calm and measured. Too calm. The tone of a man who'd rehearsed this conversation in his mind until every word landed exactly where he wanted. "But the life insurance pays triple for accidental death. And you were never supposed to be here this late. But you came anyway. Always so trusting." Chloe's knees weakened. 8 months pregnant with twins, standing in a freezer set to negative 50 degrees. Her husband's voice explaining why he was killing her. The words arranged themselves into sentences her mind refused to accept. "You planned this. The late-night call was genius, wasn't it? Come help with inventory, emergency situation, night manager had an accident. You didn't question it. Bring no one. Leave your phone in the car, the temperature will damage it. Every instruction you followed perfectly." She had followed every instruction. Phone sitting in the cup holder of her Honda Civic parked 3 buildings away. No one knew she was here. Victor had been so concerned about the phone, so specific. Don't bring it inside, the extreme cold will crack the screen, ruin the battery. She'd believed him, trusted him, left her lifeline behind. Think about your children. Please, Victor. Think about... I am thinking about them. He almost sounded proud, like he was solving a particularly clever puzzle. $2 million in life insurance, triple payout for accidental death, $6 million total, much better than a pharmaceutical manager's salary with $400,000 in gambling debts. The number landed like a physical blow. $400,000. Chloe hadn't known, hadn't suspected, but then she never suspected anything. 5 years of marriage, and she'd believed every word, accepted every explanation, trusted every promise. The late shift was perfect. Everyone gone by 9. Just me checking inventory, you stopping by to help your devoted husband. A tragic malfunction. The pregnant wife trapped in a freezer. Door mechanism failure. By morning you'll be frozen. The babies too. I'll be devastated. Insurance companies pay faster when the claimant is grieving, especially when he's a respected pharmaceutical manager whose wife died trying to help him. Chloe's throat tightened. This wasn't improvisation. This was a script, rehearsed, refined. How long had he been planning this? Since she told him about the twins 6 months ago. Since before you were useful once. Chloe, I'll give you that. The database system you designed saved Martinez Pharmaceuticals $500,000 annually. The logistics hub restructure in Jersey City, brilliant work. Only facility in the region with proper medical transport licensing. You're smart. I never denied that. Past tense. We're useful. We're smart. Already erasing her from present to past, present to memory, present to corpse. But useful doesn't pay gambling debts. And you started asking questions about money, about the expenses that didn't add up, about why we were 3 months behind on mortgage when I told you business was booming. You were becoming a liability. The intercom crackled. Then silence. Chloe pounded on the door. Her fists made dull thuds against steel designed to withstand extreme temperatures and pressure. The sound didn't carry. No one would hear. The building was empty. Victor had made sure of that. She was alone. The lights were motion-activated. Chloe realized this with sudden visceral terror. If she stopped moving, darkness would swallow everything. And in -50 degrees, stopping meant dying faster. The lights would go out when her body gave up fighting. She forced herself to breathe. Each inhale felt like swallowing knives. The air burned her lungs, ice crystals forming in her throat. Her fingers already felt numb. She flexed them, curled them into fists, forced blood to keep moving. The freezer measured maybe 12 feet by 12 feet. Metal shelves lined 3 walls packed with pharmaceutical supplies, boxes of vaccines, temperature-controlled medications. Nothing warm, nothing soft, nothing that could break through a steel door designed to maintain integrity during power failures and equipment malfunctions. Chloe wore a light blue maternity dress, flat shoes, a thin cardigan that Victor had suggested she bring. You'll be sitting in the car, mostly just wear something comfortable. More lies, a trail of lies leading to this frozen tomb. She'd dressed exactly as he wanted, made herself easy to kill. The babies kicked, strong, urgent movements. They knew something was wrong. A mother always knows when her children are afraid. Chloe knew they felt her fear, her racing heartbeat, the adrenaline flooding her system. She placed her hands on her belly, tried to send them comfort, warmth, safety, all the things she didn't have to give. A contraction hit at minute 7. Chloe gasped, her hand flying to her abdomen. No, not now, not here. She was only 32 weeks pregnant. The babies needed more time. Her body didn't care about should or shouldn't. Her body was shutting down, and shutting down meant labor. Crisis labor. The kind that happened when a pregnant woman was dying and her body made one last desperate attempt to save the children. The contraction passed. Chloe breathed through it, counting seconds, trying to remember the exercises from birthing class. She and Victor had practiced together. He'd sat beside her, holding her hand, timing contractions on his phone, promising he'd be there for every moment, every single moment. He'd been planning to kill her even then. How long had Victor wanted her dead? Chloe's mind raced backward through their marriage, searching for the moment it turned. When did the man she loved become the man who would lock her in a freezer 5 months ago? She'd fallen down the stairs. 8 weeks pregnant, just starting to show. Victor had been standing behind her on the landing. She'd felt a pressure on her back, a hand to push, and then she was tumbling, grabbing for the railing, missing her body, slamming into steps until she landed at the bottom. Victor had rushed down, all concern and panic. "Are you okay? What happened? You must have tripped." The doctor at the emergency room had asked careful questions. "Did someone push you?" Victor was right there, shaking his head sadly. She tripped. Pregnant women lose their balance. Chloe had believed him, accepted the explanation, ignored the note the ER doctor wrote in her chart. Patient initially reported being pushed. Husband claims she tripped. 3 months ago. Food poisoning. Violent, prolonged, put her in the hospital for 2 days. Only she got sick. Victor had made dinner that night, chicken piccata, her favorite. He didn't eat any, said he'd grabbed food at work. The ER doctor had ordered blood tests. Arsenic levels abnormally high. Recommended investigation into the source. Victor had been so apologetic. Must have been bad takeout for lunch. Don't eat at that place again. Let me cook for you from now on. I'll take care of you." The investigation never happened. Victor closed it down, spoke to the doctors, assured them it was an isolated incident. 6 weeks ago, her car. The brakes failed on the highway. Chloe had pumped the pedal, feeling it go soft, useless, her Honda accelerating toward the stopped traffic ahead. She'd swerved onto the shoulder, grinding against the guardrail until friction stopped her. The mechanic had sent her an email she'd never fully read. Brake lines were cut. This was deliberate sabotage. I reported it to police, but your husband said it must be parking lot vandalism. Case closed. Victor hadn't just decided to kill her in this freezer. He'd been trying for months, each attempt more calculated than the last. The stairs too easy to survive, the poison too easy to trace, the brakes too easy to fix. But a freezer. A pregnant woman trapped in -50 degrees, delivering premature babies alone, all 3 freezing to death while her devoted husband worked late. That was untraceable. That was perfect. That was the plan that would finally work. Another contraction, stronger this time, 6 minutes after the first. Labor was progressing. Chloe's body didn't know it was supposed to wait, didn't know this was the worst possible time, the worst possible place. Hypothermia was triggering shutdown protocols, and a shutting down body went into crisis mode. Crisis mode meant labor. Labor meant the babies were coming whether she was ready or not. She removed her cardigan. Her fingers fumbled with the buttons, clumsy with cold, finally got it off and wrapped it around her belly. Better the babies stay warm 10 more minutes than her. Better they have some protection. The dress was sleeveless now. The cold attacked her arms, her shoulders, her neck. Every exposed inch of skin burned. She kept moving. Squat, stand, squat, stand. The motion helped with contractions, helped with circulation, helped her feel like she was doing something, anything other than standing still and waiting to die. Chloe looked at her watch. Digital numbers glowed in the harsh fluorescent light. The last time she'd checked had been 9 p.m., sitting in her car in the Martinez Pharmaceuticals parking lot, about to walk into the building where her husband worked, where she'd helped build the inventory system, where she'd designed the entire logistics network that made the company profitable, where her name appeared on exactly 0 patents because Victor had put his name on everything. Every brilliant idea you had, I put my name on. You were too naive to notice. He'd said it so casually. Like theft was just good business. Like erasing her contributions was his right as her husband. She'd written the code that automated their entire supply chain. She'd identified the Jersey City location as the only facility in the tri-state area with the right licensing for pharmaceutical transport. She'd restructured their distribution to cut costs by 30%. And Victor had presented it all as his work. Claimed credit, took bonuses, got promoted. Now the time read 11:47 p.m., 2 hours and 47 minutes since Victor locked the door. Her water broke at minute 16, not minutes on the clock. Minute 16 of her counting, of her internal tracking, of trying to maintain some sense of control in the uncontrollable. The amniotic fluid steamed in the frozen air. Chloe watched it pool on the floor, watched it begin to freeze. The cruel poetry of it. Her water breaking, then immediately turning to ice. This was really happening. She was going into active labor in a -50-degree freezer. Alone. No doctors, no equipment, no warmth. Nothing but her will to survive and 2 babies who deserved better than this. Another contraction. 4 minutes after the last. Stronger, longer, more painful. Chloe squatted through it, breathed, counted. 1, 2, 3, 4. The contraction peaked, held, finally released. She was going to have these babies here, now, in this frozen hell. And somehow she had to keep them alive until someone found them. If anyone found them. Chloe pushed that thought away. Someone would come. Someone had to come. The universe couldn't be this cruel. Couldn't let her survive Victor's abuse for 5 years only to die like this. Couldn't let her babies be born just to freeze to death in their first moments of life. But deep down, in a place she didn't want to acknowledge, she knew. Knew Victor had planned everything perfectly. Knew he'd thought of every detail. Knew he'd made sure no one would look for her until morning. Until it was far too late. The cold was winning. Chloe could feel it taking her. Her thoughts grew slower, fuzzier, hypothermia setting in, her body prioritizing keeping her core warm, keeping the babies warm, sacrificing her extremities. Her toes felt like blocks of ice. Her fingers barely responded to commands, but she kept moving, kept shuffling, kept the lights on. In the darkness, she would die faster. In the darkness, she would give up. So she moved, one foot in front of the other, a terrible dance with death. Another contraction. 3 minutes apart now. The babies were coming, ready or not, warm or frozen. They were coming. Chloe had read about women giving birth in terrible conditions, war zones, natural disasters, car accidents. She'd never imagined she'd be one of them. Never imagined her husband would create the terrible condition. But here she was, about to deliver twins in a freezer while the man who'd promised to love and protect her drove away to his alibi. Victor would be establishing his whereabouts right now. Maybe at a bar being seen making sure people remembered him. Maybe at a casino, the one place his presence was always documented, cameras tracking his every move. Maybe at home pretending to be worried, calling her phone and leaving concerned voicemails, building the narrative of the devoted husband whose wife disappeared mysteriously. Chloe wondered what story he'd tell. Would he report her missing tonight? Tomorrow morning? How long would he wait before playing the grieving husband? How convincing would his tears be when they found her body? She moved to the center of the freezer, squatted, tried to remember everything she'd learned. Support the head, clear the airway, keep the baby warm, stimulate breathing if necessary. Keep the baby warm in a -50-degree freezer. The cruel joke of it almost made her laugh. Almost. But laughing would waste energy. Energy was life. Energy was the difference between her babies surviving and dying. Another contraction, stronger. The urge to push overwhelmed her. Her body took over. Instinct replaced thought. Chloe pushed. The pain was incredible, searing, all-consuming. But pain meant she was alive. Pain meant her body was working. Pain meant her babies were coming. She felt the baby crown, felt the ring of fire everyone talked about. Except the fire was ice. Everything was ice. Her hands, her feet, her face. All ice. Come on, baby. Come on. Mama's got you. Another push. The head emerged. Chloe reached down with numb fingers, supported it just like she'd learned, just like she'd practiced on a doll in a warm, comfortable birthing class with Victor sitting beside her. One more push. The baby slid into her frozen hands. A girl. Tiny, blue, silent. Terror seized Chloe's heart. No, 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 no. Breathe, baby. Please breathe. She rubbed the baby's back. Rough stimulation cleared the mouth with a finger she could barely feel. Come on, breathe. The baby gasped. Then a weak cry. Thin, reedy, but alive. Chloe sobbed. The sound tore from her throat, relief and joy and terror all mixed together. Her daughter was alive. Blue and hypothermic and way too small, but alive. She had nothing to wrap her in, nothing but the cardigan she'd already used to insulate her belly. Chloe unwrapped it, bundled the tiny body, held her daughter against her chest, skin to skin, the only warmth she could offer. The baby's heartbeat fluttered against her palm. Weak, fast, struggling, but beating. No time to bond, no time to marvel. Another contraction hit, hard, fast. The second baby was coming. Chloe couldn't do this. Couldn't deliver another baby while holding the first. Couldn't keep one warm while birthing the second. It was impossible. But impossible was all she had. She adjusted her position, held her daughter tight against her chest with one arm, felt the second baby coming with pressure and pain that made her vision blur. She couldn't rub this baby's back, couldn't stimulate properly, could only hold her daughter and pray. The second twin slid out faster. Experience. Her body knew the path now. A boy, also tiny, also blue, also silent. Chloe had no hands left. One arm held her daughter, the other tried to support her son. She couldn't rub his back, couldn't clear his airway properly, could only hold him and pray. Please, God, Please. Not like this. The baby gasped, coughed, made a thin, reedy cry. Alive. Both of them alive. Against every odd, against all logic alive. Chloe had no way to cut the umbilical cords. No scissors, no clean instruments, nothing sterile. She left them attached, let the placentas deliver naturally, held both babies against her chest, sharing what little warmth remained in her body, one on each side, their tiny heartbeats against her skin, proof that impossible things could survive. She looked at her watch, vision blurry, numbers hard to focus on. 3:47 a.m. She'd been locked in this frozen hell for 6 hours and 47 minutes. The babies had been born in the coldest conditions any human had survived. They shouldn't be alive. By every medical standard, every statistical probability, they should be dead. But they were breathing. Weak, cold, struggling. But breathing. Chloe was going to die. She knew that now. Hypothermia had progressed too far. Her thoughts were getting fuzzy, her body shutting down. She'd stopped shivering an hour ago. That was bad. She remembered reading that when you stopped shivering, the end was close. Your body had given up trying to generate heat. But maybe she could keep the babies warm a little longer. Maybe if she held them close, shared her body heat, they could survive 30 more minutes. An hour. Long enough for someone to find them. Her eyes closed. She couldn't keep them open. So tired. So cold. So ready to stop fighting. But somewhere in a parking lot 3 buildings away, someone was about to notice something wrong. Someone who had every reason to hate Victor Martinez. Someone who would give Chloe and her babies the chance they desperately needed. The lights in the freezer flickered. Chloe's movements had slowed too much. Soon there would be only darkness. Soon there would be 3 small bodies frozen in time. A mother and 2 newborns who almost made it. But not yet. Not quite yet. Connor Hayes noticed the car at 6:04 a.m., a silver Honda Civic, hazard lights blinking weakly, battery dying. He'd been working late again. Building an empire required sacrifice. His tech company, Rhodes Tech Solutions, occupied the building 3 doors down from Martinez Pharmaceuticals. They shared a parking complex. Connor rarely paid attention to other cars, but the hazards caught his eye. They'd been blinking when he arrived yesterday at 11 p.m. for an overnight work session. 7 hours ago. Still blinking now. That was wrong. That was a problem. That was someone in trouble. Connor walked toward the car. His breath misted in the cold November air. Not -50, just normal Michigan winter. Maybe 25 degrees. Cold enough. He peered through the window. A purse on the passenger seat. A phone in the cup holder. The screen lit up with notifications. 53 missed calls. 17 text messages. Someone was looking for this person. The license plate frame read, Martinez Pharmaceuticals, Employee Parking. Connor's blood ran cold. Not from temperature. From the name. Martinez. He pulled out his phone, used the flashlight to look closer. Baby items in the back seat. A pregnancy pillow. An ultrasound photo stuck to the dashboard. A woman. Pregnant. Car abandoned for 7 hours with hazard lights dying and phone filled with frantic messages. Every instinct Connor had screamed danger. He called building security. A bored guard answered on the 4th ring. This is Connor Hayes from Rhodes Tech. There's an abandoned car in the lot. Hazards have been on for 7 hours. Pregnant woman's car. You need to check Martinez Pharmaceuticals. Now. The guard sighed. Sir, I can't just now. Connor's voice carried the weight of someone used to being obeyed. Check every room, every freezer, every storage area. Someone is in danger. 5 minutes later, Connor stood in the Martinez Pharmaceuticals lobby with Tom, a skeptical security guard who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Tom checked his computer, scrolled through keycard access logs. Victor Martinez checked in at 8:47 p.m. No checkout scan. Tom squinted at the screen. His key card shows, freezer access, storage bay, C, 9:13 p.m. entry, 9:34 p.m. exit. Connor's gut twisted. Victor Martinez. He knew that name. knew it well. The man who'd stolen his business plan 7 years ago. The man who'd forged documents and fabricated evidence and nearly destroyed Connor's life. Victor Martinez, who'd cost him 3 years of lawsuits and rebuilding. Victor Martinez, who'd walked away with $3 million while Connor started over from nothing. And now Victor's pregnant wife's car sat abandoned while his key card showed freezer access at 9 p.m. and no sign of him since. "Open the freezers. All of them." Tom hesitated. "Sir, I need authorization." Connor pulled out his wallet. $500 bills on the desk. "Open every freezer now." Money talked. Tom grabbed his keys. They moved through the building. Storage Bay A, pharmaceutical supplies. No people. Storage Bay B, more supplies. Empty. Storage Bay C. Tom's hand hesitated on the keycard reader. Victor Martinez's access shows he was in here at 9:13 p.m. Tom checked his tablet. 10 hours ago. Nobody else in or out. 10 hours in a negative 50-degree freezer. Nobody survived that. But Connor's instincts screamed. He'd learned to trust those instincts. They'd saved his company more than once. They'd rebuilt his life after Victor destroyed it. And they were screaming now. "Open it!" Tom swiped his keycard. The lock clicked. He pulled the heavy door. It swung open with a hydraulic hiss. Cold air rolled out negative 50 degrees, meeting 25 degrees in a cloud of condensation. Connor couldn't see through it at first. Couldn't see anything but white fog. Then the fog cleared. Connor's world stopped. A woman sat on the freezer floor slumped against the wall, not moving. Skin blue-white, lips purple, eyes closed. And in her arms, wrapped in a small cardigan, a tiny baby. Connor was moving before his brain caught up. He dropped to his knees beside her, felt for a pulse. Weak, barely there. 30 beats per minute. The edge of death. "Call 911. The shout came from somewhere outside himself. "Now!" Tom fumbled for his phone. Connor looked at the woman. Grace, no, the car registration said Chloe Martinez, Victor's wife. He'd never met her, but he'd seen photos, company events, social media, always smiling, always beside Victor. Now she sat frozen, dying, holding a baby that might already be dead. He felt the baby, also cold, also blue, but a faint heartbeat, faint breathing, alive, somehow alive. Then he looked down, saw the umbilical cord, saw the second baby still attached, crying weakly, a sound like a kitten. His mind couldn't process it, couldn't comprehend. She'd delivered 2 babies alone in a negative 50-degree freezer, and they were all still alive. Connor stripped off his suit jacket, his thermal shirt, wrapped the first baby, the second baby. Grace Chloe stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused, delirious. "Please," her voice was barely a whisper. "Don't let them die. They're so small." That prayer, every mother's prayer in her darkest moment. Connor felt it pierce his heart. "I've got them, I've got you. Stay awake. Help is coming." Her eyes found his. Some recognition flickered there, some awareness. "He locked me in." The words came slow, slurred. "My husband, Victor. He locked me in here." Connor's blood turned to ice, not from the freezer, from rage, pure incandescent rage. Victor Martinez hadn't just stolen from him, hadn't just lied and cheated and destroyed. Victor had locked his pregnant wife in a freezer to die, had left her to deliver their children alone, had murdered 3 people for money. Except he'd failed, because Connor had noticed, because Connor's instincts had screamed, because the universe for once had intervened. Paramedics rushed in. Connor stepped back, let them work. Watched them assess, wrap, stabilize, move. Chloe and the babies onto stretchers, rushed them to the ambulance. Tom stood beside him, shaking. "Did she say her husband locked her in?" "Yes." "We need to call the police." "Yes." But Connor was already thinking ahead, already planning. Victor Martinez had tried to commit the perfect murder, had come within minutes of succeeding, and Connor had evidence. security footage, keycard logs, timeline documentation. Victor had finally made a mistake, and Connor was going to make sure he paid for it, not just for what he'd done to Chloe and the babies. For everything. For all of it. For 7 years of waiting and building evidence and documenting lies. This was the moment. The reckoning. The end of Victor Martinez's carefully constructed life. Connor followed the ambulance to the hospital. He didn't know Chloe, didn't owe her anything, but he knew Victor, and he knew evil when he saw it, and he wasn't going to let evil win, not this time. In the ambulance, Chloe held her babies. Paramedics worked frantically. Too cold, too small, too much trauma. The odds were terrible, but they were alive. Against every law of nature and medicine and common sense, they were alive. Chloe's mind drifted. Memories flooded in. Things she'd ignored, things she'd explained away, things she'd pretended were normal. The push down the stairs at 5 months, Victor's hand on her back, then her tumbling, him saying she tripped, her believing, the food poisoning, only she got sick, him bringing dinner, her violently ill, him suggesting bad takeout, her accepting. The car brakes, failed completely, him saying vandalism, her not questioning. It wasn't the first time he'd tried to kill her. It was just the first time she couldn't pretend it was an accident. "Ma'am, stay with us." A paramedic's voice. "What are your baby's names?" Names. She hadn't named them. Hadn't had time. Hadn't thought past survival. But they needed names. Needed identity. Needed to be people, not just miracles. Sophia. The first name that came. Classic. Simple. Strong. And Mason. She'd always loved those names. Victor had wanted Junior, had wanted to name the boy after himself. Chloe had pushed back. Thank God she'd pushed back. Her son wouldn't carry a monster's name. The hospital appeared through the ambulance windows. Bright lights, movement, urgency. Chloe closed her eyes. Let them take her. Let them save her babies. Let herself drift into darkness. She'd fought long enough. Now others could fight for her. The last thing she heard was a doctor's voice, shocked and awed. "How are they alive? 10 hours at -50, delivering twins alone. This is medically impossible." But Chloe knew the answer. She was alive because she'd refused to die. The babies were alive because she'd kept them warm with her own body, her own will, her own desperate love. Impossible was just another word for things people hadn't survived yet. And Chloe Martinez was a survivor. 48 hours of nothing. Then Chloe's eyes opened to white walls, beeping machines, and pain that radiated from everywhere at once. Her body felt wrong, heavy, disconnected, like someone had taken her apart and put her back together with pieces missing. Dr. Helen Park sat beside the bed, gray hair pulled back, kind eyes that had seen too much suffering to be shocked by anything. 58 years old and 30 of them spent in emergency medicine, her face showed every hard case, every miracle, every loss. "Chloe, welcome back. You've been unconscious for 48 hours. The words came from far away. Chloe tried to speak. Her throat burned raw from intubation. She managed one word. "Babies." In the NICU. Critical but stable. Dr. Park leaned forward, her voice gentle but clinical. "Sophia is 3 pounds 2 ounces. Mason is 2 pounds 14 ounces. Born at 32 weeks in -50-degree conditions. By every medical standard, they shouldn't have survived. But they did." Chloe tried to sit up. Pain shot through her body, white-hot and encompassing. She gasped. "Don't move too quickly. You have severe frostbite. We had to amputate 3 toes on your left foot. Your hands have significant nerve damage. Some fingers won't regain full function. Hypothermia caused organ stress. Your kidneys are recovering. Your liver is compensating. You're alive, but you paid a price." 3 toes, nerve damage, organs stressed. The inventory of damage felt abstract, clinical, like Dr. Park was describing someone else's body. But the pain was real, immediate, undeniable. Chloe looked at her hands. Bandaged. She tried to move her fingers. Some responded. Others stayed frozen, unresponsive. Her left foot throbbed with phantom sensation from toes that no longer existed. The price of survival. But they were alive. All three of them. Against impossible odds alive. Dr. Park's expression shifted, clinical to something harder. Angry. Your husband filed a missing person report 16 hours after locking you in that freezer. He claimed you called him, said you needed space, that pregnancy hormones were making you unstable. He was very convincing. Devastated husband, confused and worried. He had the police half believing you'd run away before security footage proved otherwise. 16 hours. Victor had waited 16 hours before pretending to care. 16 hours to establish his alibi, to be seen in public places, to build the narrative of the concerned spouse. Chloe felt something crack inside her chest. Not her heart breaking, something harder, something forged in ice and desperation, rage, pure and clean and focused. Is he arrested? Yes. Detective Sarah Freeman is handling the case. 3 counts of attempted murder, 1 for you, 1 for each baby. But there's something you need to know. Doctor. Park pulled out her tablet, tapped through screens, turned it so Chloe could see. A news article. Victor Martinez, pharmaceutical manager, released on $5 million bail. Photo of him walking out of the courthouse. Expensive suit, perfect hair, wounded expression. The image of a man wrongly accused. His mother posted bail 2 hours after his arraignment. Vanessa Martinez wrote a check for $5 million without hesitation. Chloe stared at the photo. Victor free, walking, breathing, living, while she lay in a hospital bed missing toes and nerve function, while their babies fought for survival in isolettes. Victor was free. Her hands shook, the ones that still worked, trembling with fury so intense it felt like another kind of cold. He tried to murder us, and he's walking around like nothing happened. The legal system has procedures. Bail is part of that. Dr. Park's voice carried frustration. But Detective Freeman wants to talk to you when you're ready. The evidence is overwhelming. Security footage, audio recordings, medical documentation, financial records showing motive. This case is solid. Solid. What a word. Like evidence could make up for 10 hours in a freezer. Like a trial could erase the memory of giving birth alone in freezing darkness. Like justice could restore her missing toes or repair her damaged hands or give her babies the full-term gestation they deserved. But justice was all she had. Justice and rage and the determination to make sure Victor Martinez spent the rest of his life in prison. A knock at the door. A man entered, tall, dark hair touched with gray at the temples. Expensive suit that hung on him like he'd forgotten he was wearing it. Eyes that looked tired and alert at the same time. I'm sorry to intrude. I'm Connor Hayes. I found you. In the freezer. Recognition flickered. The voice, the presence, the moment before everything went dark. This man had saved them, had opened the door, had called for help. You saved my babies' lives. Her voice cracked. Thank you. Connor shook his head. You saved them. I just opened a door. You survived 10 hours. You delivered twins. You kept them alive in conditions that should have killed all 3 of you. That wasn't me. That was you. He moved closer, his expression shifting to something complicated. Determination mixed with old pain. Chloe, I need to tell you something. Victor Martinez and I have history. 7 years ago we were business school classmates, partners. We developed database software together. Victor stole the source code, forged my signature on transfer documents, sold it for $3 million. Then he fabricated evidence to make it look like I'd embezzled from our joint account. The words landed like stones, each one heavy, each one adding to the tower of Victor's crimes. He destroyed 3 years of my life, cost me my reputation, my investors, my future. I had to rebuild from nothing, start over, prove I wasn't a thief. By the time the truth emerged, the statute of limitations had passed on the fraud. Victor disappeared into the pharmaceutical industry. I thought I'd never see him again. Connor's hands clenched, released, a physical effort to maintain control. So when I saw that Martinez Pharmaceuticals parking sticker on your car, I knew. I knew if Victor was involved, something was wrong. Men like him don't change. They escalate. And I was right. Chloe processed this. The man who saved her was Victor's enemy. The one person Victor had bragged about destroying, whose business he'd stolen, whose life he'd ruined. And Connor Hayes had noticed her abandoned car, had insisted security check the freezers, had refused to ignore the warning signs. Why are you telling me this? Because I want to help you win. I have evidence about Victor's fraud, emails, forged documents, witness statements from the whistleblower who came forward last year. If we use it in your criminal trial, it establishes a pattern. Shows Victor is capable of calculated deception for financial gain. Shows this wasn't a one-time impulse. It's who he is. Connor sat in the chair Dr. Park had vacated, leaned forward, intent. But there's risk. I've had this evidence for a year, building a civil case. If I go public now, I could face charges for withholding evidence of a crime. Victor's lawyers will attack me. They'll say I'm using your trial for revenge. They'll try to discredit everything. Then why offer? Because when I found you in that freezer holding those babies barely alive, something changed. I spent 7 years angry, guarded, convinced every relationship was transactional. You reminded me what it feels like to act without calculating return on investment, to help because it's right, not because it benefits me. He met her eyes, honest, direct. If my evidence helps convict Victor of attempted murder, any legal risk to me is worth it. He needs to pay, not just for what he did to me, for what he did to you and Sophia and Mason, for everything. Chloe studied his face, looking for the angle, the manipulation, the cost that would come later. 5 years with Victor had taught her to expect hidden prices, but she saw only sincerity, determination, a man offering help without strings. I accept, her voice steadied, but I want to do more than sit and let others fight for me. Victor controlled me for 5 years, made every decision, managed every aspect of my life. Now I want control back. I want to fight. Connor smiled. Small, genuine. Then let's begin. A week passed in a blur of medical procedures and legal preparation. Sophia and Mason remained in the NICU, tiny bodies in isolates attached to wires and tubes and machines that beeped reassurance. Chloe visited every day, sat beside their incubators, reached through the openings to touch their soft skin, whispered promises. Mama's here. Mama's fighting for you. We're going to be okay. She wasn't sure she believed it, but saying the words made them feel possible. Rachel Kim arrived on day 3. 30 years old, red hair, freckles, tears streaming down her face. Best friend since college, the one person Victor hadn't completely alienated, though he'd tried. Oh my God, Chloe, I came as soon as I heard. I've been calling and Victor kept saying you needed space. You didn't want visitors, you were dealing with pregnancy stress. Rachel's voice broke. She pulled Chloe into a careful hug, mindful of bandages and IV lines. He locked you in a freezer. He tried to kill you. I can't believe I should have known something was wrong. Should have pushed harder to see you. Should have. You couldn't have known. I didn't know. He gaslit me for 5 years. Made me doubt reality. Made me think I was too sensitive, too emotional, too difficult. You can't blame yourself for believing his lies when I believed them too. Rachel pulled back, wiped her eyes. What do you need? Anything. Everything. I'm here. I need you to help me build this case. I need someone I trust who won't sugarcoat things or try to protect me. I need my best friend. You have her, always. Rachel moved into the apartment Connor had rented for Chloe. Small, safe, far from Victor's world. She brought clothes, toiletries, photos of better times, made the space feel less like a safe house and more like a temporary home. Detective Sarah Freeman came on day 5. 42, sharp eyes that missed nothing, 20 years in law enforcement, and half of those focused on domestic violence cases. She'd seen patterns, recognized escalation, knew attempted murder when evidence screamed it. Mrs. Martinez, I need your full statement. Everything from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. Chloe told it all. The phone call, the empty building, the freezer. Victor's voice over the intercom explaining why he was killing her. The 10 hours, the labor, the birth, holding 2 babies while hypothermia claimed her, Connor opening the door at the last possible moment. Freeman typed notes, asked questions, clarified timeline. When Chloe finished, Freeman leaned back, expression grim. This is one of the worst domestic violence cases I've investigated, but it's also one of the strongest. Security footage shows Victor entering the freezer with you, exiting alone, locking the door. We have audio from the intercom system, his voice admitting the life insurance motive. Medical evidence is overwhelming. Financial records show the gambling debts and the insurance policy increase. Search history on his computer shows months of research. She pulled out a file. Thick, organized, damning. 6 months ago, Victor searched, "How long does hypothermia take to kill?" He searched, "Life insurance payout for accidental death." He searched, "Can pregnant women survive freezing temperatures?" 5 months ago, he increased your life insurance from $500,000 to $2 million. You signed the paperwork, but I'm betting you didn't read it carefully. Chloe's stomach turned. She'd signed. Victor had presented it as routine company paperwork. Optional life insurance increase for employees and spouses. She'd skimmed the forms signed where he indicated, handed them back. Trusting. Naive. Complicit in her own attempted murder. Freeman continued. 4 months ago, his keycard accessed storage bay C 6 times, always between midnight and 3 a.m., always for 10 to 15 minutes. Security footage shows him testing the freezer door, checking the lock mechanism, timing how long someone could survive. Each revelation was another stone in Chloe's gut. Victor hadn't suddenly decided to kill her. He'd planned, researched, practiced. The freezer wasn't impulse. It was the culmination of months of calculation. 3 months ago, you were hospitalized for food poisoning. Medical records show abnormally high arsenic levels. The attending physician recommended investigation. The case was closed 48 hours later. Victor spoke to hospital administration, convinced them it was an isolated incident. Arsenic, not bad takeout. Poison, deliberate. Attempted murder the second time. 6 weeks ago, your car's brake lines were cut. The mechanic reported it to police as deliberate sabotage. That case was also closed within 48 hours. Victor claimed parking lot vandalism, no witnesses, nothing to pursue. 3 attempts before the freezer, each one documented, each one explained away. Each one a chance to see the truth that Chloe had missed because she loved him, because she trusted him, because the cage had been built 1 bar at a time and she hadn't noticed until the door locked. The evidence is overwhelming, Mrs. Martinez. Victor planned to murder you and your children for $2 million in insurance money. He spent 9 months preparing. The only reason you're alive is because you're stronger than he anticipated, and Connor Hayes has good instincts. Freeman closed the file. Victor's lawyers will try to create doubt. They'll attack your credibility. They'll claim you're unstable, vindictive, mentally ill from pregnancy. They'll twist every fact. But the evidence doesn't lie. Security footage doesn't have an agenda. Audio recordings don't misremember. This case is solid. Solid. That word again. Chloe wanted to believe it, wanted to trust the system. But Victor was free on bail, walking around, living, while she relearned how to use damaged hands and walk on a foot missing toes. What happens now? Trial, probably 3 months out. We'll prepare you for testimony. Connor's evidence about the fraud 7 years ago will help establish pattern. We're also looking for other victims. Men like Victor don't start with attempted murder. They escalate. Other victims. The phrase hung in the air. How many women had Victor hurt before Chloe? How many had he manipulated, gaslit, controlled? How many had escaped before it escalated to murder? But what nobody knew, what even Chloe didn't fully realize yet, was that Victor had been planning this for 9 months. Every "I love you," every gentle touch, every time he felt the baby's kick, he was counting down to the day she'd die. Chloe began her own investigation 2 days later. She couldn't just wait, couldn't sit passively while lawyers and detectives built the case. Victor had stolen 5 years of her life. She wanted every piece of evidence, every proof of his lies. every documentation of his crimes. She started with medical records, called the hospital from 5 months ago when she'd fallen down the stairs, requested her complete file. The doctor's notes made her hands shake. Patient reports being pushed from behind. Husband present claims patient tripped. Patient appears frightened. Multiple contusions consistent with fall. Recommended follow-up for domestic violence screening. Patient declined. She'd reported the push. She had, right there in the emergency room before Victor's explanations eroded her certainty, before his concern and care convinced her she'd misremembered, before the gaslighting took hold. The truth had been in the medical record all along. She just hadn't known to look. Next, the arsenic poisoning. Blood test results clearly stated abnormal levels. Doctor's recommendation for environmental investigation. Case notes showing Victor Martinez spoke with hospital administration provided explanation about bad restaurant food. Case closed. Evidence. Documentation. Proof that Victor hadn't just tried once, he'd tried 4 times, each attempt more calculated than the last. Chloe called the mechanic who'd repaired her car, explained who she was, asked if he still had records from 6 weeks ago. "Mrs. Martinez, I'm so sorry. I tried to push the police to investigate, but your husband shut it down. I saved the report. The brake lines were clean cuts. Professional. Someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Not vandalism. Sabotage. Can you send me copies? Already on the way. Glad you're okay. Glad someone finally believed you." Finally believed her. The phrase stung. How many people had seen signs? How many had tried to help? How many had been turned away by Victor's charm, his explanations, his ability to make everyone doubt the victim? Connor returned on day 8. Brought food from a Thai restaurant. Somehow knew her favorite dishes without asking. Maybe Rachel had told him. Maybe he'd researched. Either way, the gesture felt thoughtful without being invasive. "How are you holding up?" Chloe set down the chicken pad thai. "I found evidence. 4 murder attempts before the freezer. All documented. All explained away. All ignored because Victor was convincing and I was the unstable pregnant wife." "You weren't unstable. You were being systematically abused and gaslit. There's a difference." "I signed the life insurance papers. I didn't read them. I trusted him. I basically gave him the murder weapon." Connor's expression sharpened. "No, he gave himself the murder weapon by being a lying, manipulative criminal. You signed paperwork your husband presented as routine. That's normal. That's trust. He weaponized your trust. That's not your fault." The words should have been empty comfort. But something in Connor's voice, experience maybe, or his own history with Victor's lies made them land differently, made them feel true. "Why are you really helping me? You barely know me. Victor's your enemy, but destroying him through my case puts you at legal risk. There has to be a reason beyond altruism." Connor considered this. Honest. 7 years ago, Victor didn't just steal my software. He stole my ability to trust people. Made me cynical. Convinced me every relationship was transactional. I built walls. Protected myself. Stopped believing in anything that couldn't be quantified. He looked at her directly. "Then I found you in that freezer. You'd survived the impossible. Delivered babies alone. Kept them alive through sheer force of will. And I remembered what it felt like to act without calculating cost-benefit analysis. You reminded me how to be human. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone you found half dead. It's not pressure. It's gratitude. And responsibility. Victor took something from both of us. I have resources and evidence and the ability to help make sure he pays. So I will." Simple, direct. No hidden agenda that Chloe could detect. Either Connor Hayes was the most skilled manipulator she'd ever met, or he genuinely wanted to help with no strings attached. After 5 years with Victor, the second option felt impossible. But the medical evidence, the legal documentation, the security footage, all of it supported Connor's story. Maybe not all men were Victor. Maybe some people helped because it was right. Maybe the world wasn't entirely comprised of narcissists and victims. Maybe. 3 months felt infinite and instantaneous. The trial date approached like a storm on the horizon. Inevitable. Terrifying. Necessary. Sophia and Mason came home from the NICU in week 6, still small, still fragile, but breathing on their own, eating, gaining weight. The NICU staff called them miracles, medical impossibilities, the babies who survived conditions that should have killed them. Chloe held them and wept. Joy, relief, terror. What if she couldn't protect them? What if Victor found a way to hurt them? What if the trial went wrong and he walked free? Rachel saw the spiral, pulled Chloe back. One day at a time, 1 hour, 1 moment. You survived a freezer. You can survive this. Connor hired a lawyer. The best. Margaret Chen, 55. Criminal defense turned prosecution. Win rate that made other attorneys nervous. She met with Chloe on week 8. I've reviewed the evidence. This case is as close to slam dunk as criminal law gets. But Victor's defense team is expensive. They'll attack everything. Your mental state, your memory, your motives. They'll paint you as vindictive, unstable, a woman scorned, weaponizing her children. Margaret's expression hardened. We're going to prepare you for war, because that's what trial is. War with rules, and we're going to win. The preparation was brutal. Mock cross-examinations, hostile questions, attacks on her character, her memory, her sanity. Margaret played defense attorney, relentless, cruel, pushing every button. Why didn't you leave if he was so terrible? Because I didn't know he was terrible. He convinced me I was the problem. But you stayed 5 years. That's a long time to be blind. Abuse doesn't announce itself. It builds slowly, isolation, control, making you doubt reality. By the time I realized I was trapped, leaving was the most dangerous option. And I was right. When Victor thought I might leave, he decided murder was easier than divorce. Margaret nodded. Good. Keep that calm. Keep that clarity. Don't get defensive. State facts. Let the evidence speak. They practiced for hours, days, weeks. By the time trial started, Chloe could recite her testimony in her sleep, could answer hostile questions without flinching, could maintain composure while lawyers tried to break her. She was ready. The trial began on a cold February morning, 3 months and 2 weeks after the freezer. Chloe wore a navy suit Rachel had helped her pick. Conservative, respectful, strong without being aggressive. Her hair pulled back, minimal makeup, the image of a credible victim. She hated that she had to think about image, hated that her clothing and appearance mattered as much as evidence. But Margaret had been clear juries judged. Appearance influenced perception. Fair or not, Chloe needed to look like someone worthy of belief. The courtroom felt too small and too large at once. Wood paneling, high ceilings, fluorescent lights that made everything look slightly unreal. Victor sat at the defense table. Expensive suit, perfect hair, expression carefully calibrated to show wounded innocence. Their eyes met across the room. Victor's face stayed neutral, but something flickered. Rage, maybe? Or surprise that she was still alive, still fighting, still refusing to disappear quietly like he'd planned. Jury selection took 2 days. 7 women, 5 men, ages ranging from 28 to 65, diverse backgrounds. Some parents, some childless. A cross-section meant to represent community standards of justice. The prosecution was led by District Attorney James Chen, 45, 20 years prosecuting violent crime. Special focus on domestic violence. He'd seen patterns, knew how abusers operated, recognized calculated murder attempts versus crimes of passion. Defense was Marilyn Frost, 50. Criminal defense attorney with an 87% acquittal rate. $500 an hour. Vanessa Martinez had written the retainer check without blinking, the best defense money could buy. Opening statements painted 2 incompatible realities. Chen stood before the jury voice, calm but intense. This is a story of calculated evil. Victor Martinez planned to murder his pregnant wife and unborn twins for $2 million in life insurance money. He spent 9 months researching, testing, preparing. On November 14th, he locked Chloe Martinez in a negative 50-degree industrial freezer. listened to her beg for mercy over the intercom, then left her to die while he established his alibi. He paused. Let it sink in. What Victor didn't plan for Chloe Martinez is stronger than he imagined. She survived 10 hours in conditions that should have killed her in 2. She delivered premature twins alone, kept them alive with nothing but her body heat and her will to survive. And Victor's second mistake, his enemy Connor Hayes was working late that night, noticed Chloe's abandoned car, insisted security check every freezer, found her minutes before death. Chen walked slowly along the jury box. The evidence is overwhelming. Security footage, audio recordings, medical documentation, financial motive, computer search history. This isn't speculation. This is documented, premeditated, attempted murder. Marilyn Frost rose for the defense. Warm smile, sympathetic expression, voice like honey over steel. This is a tragedy, but not the tragedy Mr. Chen describes. This is the tragedy of a woman suffering severe prenatal depression, a woman who became paranoid, unstable, convinced her devoted husband wanted to harm her, a woman who in her confused mental state wandered into an industrial freezer and became trapped when a door malfunctioned. Frost shook her head, sad, regretful. Victor Martinez loved his wife. He's devastated by these accusations. Yes, he made a mistake. He left a freezer door inadequately secured during inventory. But that's negligence, not murder. The prosecution wants you to believe Victor is a monster, but the evidence will show he's a man in anguish, a husband whose mentally ill wife has weaponized their children to destroy him. The opening statement set the battlefield. Premeditated murder versus tragic accident. Evil husband versus unstable wife. The jury would decide which story matched the evidence. Witnesses built the prosecution's case brick by brick. Detective Freeman testified first. Methodical. Precise. Walked the jury through timeline security footage audio recordings. Victor entering storage bay C with Chloe at 9:13 p.m. Exiting alone at 9:34 p.m. His keycard locking the door from outside. His car leaving the facility at 9:47 p.m. The video played on screens positioned for jury viewing. Grainy but clear. Victor's hand on Chloe's back, guiding her into the freezer, the door closing, Victor walking away. No hesitation, no looking back. Just a man completing a task. Frost cross-examined. Aggressive. Detective, is it possible the door malfunctioned after Mr. Martinez left? Freeman's voice stayed level. No. The keycard system shows Victor's card was used to engage the external lock. Manual locks don't spontaneously activate. But you can't prove Victor intended to harm his wife. He could have thought she'd already exited. The intercom audio proves intent. Victor's voice stating, "The life insurance pays triple for accidental death." Frost's confidence flickered. That audio could be fabricated. FBI forensic technicians extracted it from the building's backup server. Chain of custody is documented. Voice analysis confirms it's Victor Martinez. The recording is authentic. The courtroom went silent. Even Frost had no immediate response. Dr. Park testified next. Clinical, authoritative. Described Chloe's injuries in detail that made several jurors wince. Frostbite severe enough to require amputation, nerve damage, organ stress, hypothermia that should have been fatal. In 30 years practicing emergency medicine, I have never seen anyone survive 10 hours at -50 degrees. The fact that Mrs. Martinez delivered premature twins in those conditions and kept them alive defies medical explanation. It's not miracle. It's extraordinary human will. Frost attacked. Doctor, could Mrs. Martinez's mental state have affected her perception of events? Mrs. Martinez underwent psychological evaluation post-rescue. No history of mental illness, no signs of psychosis or delusional thinking. Her PTSD symptoms are consistent with someone who survived attempted murder, not someone who imagined it. But pregnancy can cause hormonal imbalances, mood instability, paranoia. Dr. Park's expression went cold. Pregnancy does not cause women to hallucinate being locked in freezers by their husbands. Mrs. Martinez's account is corroborated by security footage, audio recordings, and physical evidence. Her mental state is not the question here. Victor Martinez's criminal intent is. Connor took the stand on day 3, testified about finding the car, calling security, insisting they check freezers, opening storage bay C to find Chloe and the babies barely alive. Then Chen shifted. "Mr. Hayes, please describe your history with Victor Martinez." Connor's jaw tightened. 7 years ago, we were business school classmates. We developed database software together. Victor stole the source code, forged my signature on transfer documents, sold it to investors for $3 million, then fabricated evidence to make me look like an embezzler. The courtroom stirred. Frost objected. "Irrelevant to current charges." Judge Reeves considered. "It goes to pattern of deception. I'll allow it." Connor continued. "Victor cost me 3 years fighting false accusations. I lost investors, lost my reputation, had to rebuild my entire career from nothing. Last year, a whistleblower came forward with documents proving Victor forged my signature, proving I was telling the truth all along." Chen presented the evidence. Emails, forged documents, witness statements, each piece showing Victor's capacity for calculated fraud. "Why didn't you report this earlier?" Connor met the jury's eyes. "Honest. I was building a civil case. But when I found Chloe and those babies in that freezer, I realized if my evidence helps convict Victor of attempted murder, any legal risk to me is worth it." Frost's cross-examination was vicious. "You hated Victor Martinez. You had motive to frame him." "I didn't frame anyone. Security footage, medical evidence, audio recordings, none came from me. I opened a door, that's all." "But you're using this trial to get revenge for your stolen business." Connor's voice stayed calm. "No, I'm using it to make sure Victor never hurts anyone else. There's a difference." Frost had no effective rebuttal. The evidence stood independent of Connor's history. His testimony added context, not foundation. Day 4 brought Chloe to the stand. Her hands trembled as she placed them on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, sat in the witness box with every eye in the courtroom focused on her. Chen's questions were gentle, straightforward. "Walk us through November 14th. Chloe told it, all of it. The phone call, the empty building, Victor leading her into the freezer, the door closing, his voice over the intercom explaining why he was killing her. The 10 hours, the cold, the labor, delivering Sophia, then Mason, holding both babies while hypothermia claimed her, praying someone would find them before it was too late. Her voice never broke. She'd practiced this, knew that crying would be seen as manipulation, knew she had to be strong, credible, factual. Let the horror of the story speak for itself. 3 women on the jury cried anyway. 2 men looked at Victor with visible disgust. Then Frost stood for cross-examination. The real battle began. "Mrs. Martinez, you have a history of depression, don't you?" "I was depressed because I was being abused." "But you stayed with Victor for 5 years. If he was so terrible, why not leave?" Chloe looked directly at the jury. The answer she'd practiced 100 times. "Because abusers don't start with freezers. They start small, isolating you from friends, controlling finances, making you doubt your own memory. They build a cage 1 bar at a time. By the time you realize you're trapped, leaving is the most dangerous option." And I was right. The moment Victor thought I might leave, he decided murder was easier than divorce. The courtroom went silent. Even Frost paused, recalibrating. "But you stand to gain $2 million from life insurance if Victor is convicted." "The policy was in my name. If I'd died, Victor would have received the money. My conviction or his changes nothing about my financial situation. I gain my life, my children's lives, safety. That's what I gain." Frost tried different angles, attacked Chloe's memory, suggested confusion, implied mental instability. Each time Chloe responded with calm facts. "Security footage supports my account. Audio recording confirms Victor's words. Medical evidence proves what happened to my body." After 2 hours, Frost sat down. Chloe had held. The defense called their surprise witness on day 5. The courtroom doors opened and a woman walked in. 32, blonde, nervous energy radiating from every movement. She wore a gray dress that looked expensive but uncomfortable like borrowed armor. The defense calls Olivia Chen. Chloe's heart stuttered. She knew that name. Connor had mentioned it in passing. Victor's ex-girlfriend from 7 years ago. Before Chloe, before the marriage, before everything. Olivia took the stand, swore the oath, sat with her hands folded too tightly in her lap. Frost approached with manufactured warmth. "Ms. Chen, you dated Victor Martinez 7 years ago, correct?" "Yes." "And you've been compensated $10,000 by the prosecution to testify today, haven't you?" Olivia's face went pale. Yes. But it was for travel. I flew from Portland. Hotel. Lost work days. It wasn't payment for testimony." Frost held up a document. Bank statement. $10,000 transferred from an account linked to Connor Hayes. Seems like significant compensation for airfare, doesn't it? I can give it back. I didn't come here for money. But you did accept it, which calls into question your motivations. Frost's smile was sharp. Now please tell the jury about Victor's character. What kind of man was he when you dated? Olivia opened her mouth, closed it. Her hands shook. She looked at Chloe, then at Victor, then back at the jury. Something was breaking inside her. Some dam that had held for 7 years was cracking. He was... Her voice caught, started again. "I'm sorry. I can't do this. I can't lie." Frost's expression shifted, confusion replacing confidence. "Ms. Chen, just answer the question I asked." "No." Olivia's voice grew stronger. "You paid me to say Victor was gentle, kind, that I never saw any violence. You paid me $10,000 to come here and lie for him." The courtroom erupted. Judge Reeves banged his gavel. Frost stammered objections. Chen stood face carefully neutral but eyes bright with sudden opportunity. Olivia turned to the jury, tears streaming. "I'll give the money back, all of it. I came because I thought I don't know what I thought, that maybe I owed Victor something, that he deserved a defense. But I can't lie, not after what he did to her." She pointed at Chloe. 7 years ago, Victor locked me in a basement apartment for 3 days when I tried to break up with him. He said if I told anyone he'd ruin me, destroy my career, make sure no one believed me. So when he offered me $50,000 to sign an NDA and disappear, I took it. Frost was shouting now. "Your Honor, this is completely improper. The witness is answering questions posed by defense counsel." Judge Reeves's voice cut through chaos. "Ms. Chen, do you have proof of these allegations?" Olivia pulled a folder from her purse, hands shaking but determined. "Bank transfer, $50,000 from Victor Martinez, March 2017. The NDA we both signed, and the police report I filed then withdrew 48 hours later because he threatened me." Chen took the documents, examined them, passed them to the judge. Judge Reeves reviewed each page, expression darkening. "These will be entered as evidence. Ms. Frost, your witness has become hostile. Do you wish to continue?" Frost looked at Victor. His face had gone blank. The mask he'd worn throughout trial cracked just enough to show nothing underneath. Not emotion, not calculation, just void. No further questions. Chen stood. "The prosecution would like to redirect." "Proceed." Chen approached Olivia gently. "Miss Chen, tell the jury what happened 7 years ago, in your own words." Olivia took a shuddering breath. "I dated Victor for 8 months. He was charming at first, attentive, but he got controlling, wanted to know where I was every moment, got angry when I saw friends, made me feel guilty for having a life outside him. When I tried to end it, he grabbed me, dragged me into his basement apartment, locked the door, kept me there for 3 days. Her voice steadied as she spoke, like confession was cauterizing old wounds. He didn't physically hurt me, just kept me there, said I was being irrational, that I'd calm down and see we belonged together. On day 3, his roommate came home early from a trip, heard me shouting, unlocked the door. I ran, filed a police report. Then Victor showed up with a lawyer and a check for $50,000. Signed the NDA, dropped the charges, disappear. Why did you take the money? I was 25, broke, terrified. He had resources and lawyers and the ability to destroy my reputation. I thought if I took the money and left, he'd forget about me. I thought I was saving myself. Olivia looked at Chloe again. But when I saw the news about what he did to you, locking you in that freezer pregnant, letting you deliver alone, I realized I didn't save myself. I just delayed. I should have spoken up 7 years ago. Should have made sure people knew what he was capable of. If I had, maybe you wouldn't have suffered. Maybe those babies wouldn't have been born in hell. Chen let that sit. You tried to do the right thing this time. That matters. Does it? 7 years late. After someone almost died. Yes, it matters. No more questions. The recess that followed felt like standing in the eye of a hurricane. Chloe sat in the witness room with Rachel and Connor while lawyers argued motions and Frost tried to salvage a defense that had just imploded. Rachel paced. Holy shit. Holy shit. Did that really just happen? Did Victor's own witness just destroy his case? Connor leaned against the wall, expression thoughtful. Frost gambled. Thought Olivia would be too scared to tell the truth. Thought money and intimidation would work like they did 7 years ago. She underestimated trauma and guilt and the power of watching another woman almost die for the same sins. Chloe felt numb. Olivia had lived through a preview of her own life, had escaped before the escalation, had taken money and run and carried the weight of silence for 7 years. Now that silence had broken and Victor's pattern was exposed for the jury to see. This wasn't one incident, one moment of rage, one tragic misunderstanding. This was who Victor was, who he'd always been, a man who controlled women through fear and locked them away when they tried to leave. The trial resumed after lunch. Frost looked rattled. Victor remained expressionless. The jury looked at him differently now, not as a man wrongly accused, as a predator caught. Chen's closing argument was surgical. Ladies and gentlemen, you've seen the evidence. Security footage showing Victor Martinez locking his pregnant wife in a freezer, audio recording of him admitting the insurance motive, medical testimony about injuries consistent with 10 hours in negative 50-degree temperatures, financial records showing $400,000 in gambling debts, computer searches proving months of planning. He paused. Let each point sink in. You've heard testimony from Olivia Chen. 7 years ago, Victor locked her in a basement for 3 days, paid her $50,000 to stay silent. This isn't a one-time mistake. This is a pattern. This is who Victor Martinez is when someone threatens his control. Chen walked along the jury box, made eye contact with each person. Victor thought he'd planned the perfect murder, but he made 2 mistakes. He underestimated Chloe Martinez's will to survive, and he forgot about Connor Hayes, the man whose life he'd already destroyed, the man who happened to be working late and noticed something wrong. Those 2 mistakes are why we're here instead of at a funeral. He returned to his position, voice quiet but intense. Find Victor Martinez guilty. All 3 counts. Attempted murder of Chloe Martinez, attempted murder of Sofia Martinez, attempted murder of Mason Martinez. Send the message that you cannot plan to kill your family for insurance money and escape justice. Frost's closing was defensive, grasping. She argued accident, argued malfunction, argued that the prosecution's timeline had gaps, that audio could be misinterpreted, that Chloe might be confused about events. But her heart wasn't in it. The evidence was too strong. Olivia's testimony had destroyed any reasonable doubt. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Chloe waited in the courthouse cafeteria. Couldn't eat, couldn't sit still, couldn't stop checking her phone for updates. Connor sat across from her, patient, present. Whatever happens, you did everything right. You survived, you testified, you told the truth. The rest is up to 12 strangers who saw the evidence. What if they don't believe me? What if they think I'm lying? What if Victor walks out of here free? Then we appeal, we fight harder, we make sure everyone knows what he did. But that won't happen. The jury saw the footage, heard the audio, saw Olivia's courage. They know. Rachel brought coffee. Chloe didn't drink it, just held the cup for warmth, for something to do with shaking hands. When the bailiff came to call them back, Chloe's legs barely held her. The walk to the courtroom felt infinite, every step toward a verdict that would determine whether justice existed or whether monsters could buy their freedom with expensive lawyers and dead eyes. The courtroom filled. Press in the back rows. Observers who'd followed the trial. Dr. Park had come. Detective Freeman. Even some of the NICU nurses who'd cared for Sophia and Mason. People who'd invested in this story, who needed to see it end right. Judge Reeves entered. Everyone stood, sat, the ritual of law proceeding according to ancient rhythms. Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreman stood. A woman in her 50s, schoolteacher, mother of 3. She'd cried during Chloe's testimony. Now her face showed only solemn duty. We have your honor. On the charge of attempted murder of Chloe Martinez, how do you find the defendant guilty? The word detonated through Chloe's chest, relief so intense it felt like pain. Rachel grabbed her hand, squeezed hard enough to hurt, an anchor to reality. On the charge of attempted murder of Sophia Martinez, how do you find the defendant guilty? On the charge of attempted murder of Mason Martinez, how do you find the defendant guilty? 3 counts, 3 guilty verdicts. Victor Martinez would go to prison for the rest of his life. The courtroom erupted, cheers from supporters, Vanessa Martinez screaming from the gallery, bailiffs moving to restrain her. Victor sat motionless, finally showing emotion, not remorse, not fear, rage, pure and undiluted. The anger of a man who'd planned everything perfectly and lost anyway. His eyes found Chloe across the room, promised violence, promised that this wasn't over, promised that even from prison he would make her pay. Chloe stared back, unblinking, unflinching. You tried to kill me, and I'm still here. I won. That silent exchange said everything. The abuser who'd controlled her for 5 years, the survivor who'd reclaimed her power, the final acknowledgement that his victim had become the victor. Bailiffs removed Victor in handcuffs. He shouted something. Threats or denials or rage. The words didn't matter. He was gone. Removed. Defeated. Judge Reeves called for order. Set sentencing for 2 weeks out. But everyone knew what the sentence would be. 3 consecutive life sentences. No parole. Victor Martinez would die in prison. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Cameras, microphones, questions shouted from all directions. How do you feel? What's next? Do you forgive him? Margaret Chen handled it with practiced efficiency. Gave a brief statement about justice served, about survivors finding courage, about the legal system working as intended, deflected personal questions, protected Chloe from having to perform grief or triumph for cameras. But one reporter got through. Young woman, earnest eyes. Mrs. Martinez, what do you want other abuse survivors to know? Chloe stopped, looked at the camera, thought about all the women watching, all the ones trapped in cages they couldn't see, all the ones who needed permission to leave, to fight, to survive. The cage was built 1 bar at a time. You didn't see it because you weren't supposed to see it. That's what they do. They make you doubt reality. But you can leave. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. It's the most dangerous time. But you can do it. And there are people who will help, who will believe you, who will stand with you while you fight. Her voice steadied, got stronger. I didn't need saving. I needed someone to believe me when I told the truth. I needed someone to stand beside me while I saved myself. Find those people. Tell your story. And know that surviving isn't weakness. It's the ultimate strength. The reporters went silent. Then the questions started again, softer, respectful. But Margaret was already moving Chloe toward a waiting car, away from cameras, toward whatever came next. 6 months passed in reconstruction. Physical, legal, emotional. The kind of rebuilding that happened slow and painful and necessary. Chloe moved into a small house in Ann Arbor. 3 bedrooms, fenced yard, far from Detroit and Victor's world. Connor had helped with the down payment, refused to let her call it charity. Investment in someone who survived the impossible. Best investment I'll ever make. Sophia and Mason grew. 6 months old, then 9, then 12. Hit milestones. Rolled over, babbled, laughed. Two perfect humans with no memory of being born in frozen hell. The gift of infancy was forgetting trauma. They would grow up knowing their father tried to kill them only because Chloe would tell them age-appropriate truth when they were old enough. But the lived experience, the terror, the cold that was gone. Chloe envied them that blank slate sometimes. She worked from home. Marketing consultant, flexible hours, good pay, clients who didn't ask about her past. It felt good using her brain again, building something entirely her own. No Victor to take credit, no one to claim her work as theirs. Her first project was pro bono, campaign for a domestic violence shelter. The messaging came easy because she'd lived it. You survived the worst. Now build the best. Simple, direct, true. The campaign went viral. Phone calls to the shelter tripled. Women finding courage to leave, to fight, to survive. Connor visited weekly, always called first, always respected boundaries, never stayed longer than 2 hours unless specifically invited. Brought food, played with the babies, never pushed for more than Chloe wanted to give. One evening, sitting on her porch while Sophia and Mason napped inside, Chloe asked the question that had been building for months. "Why are you still coming here?" Connor looked at the sunset, orange and purple streaking Michigan sky. "Because I like being here. Because watching you rebuild is inspiring. Because Sophia and Mason are wonderful. Because you're wonderful. I'm broken." "No, you're healing. There's a difference. I have PTSD, nightmares. I check the locks 4 times every night. I panic when anyone stands too close. I flinch at unexpected sounds. That's broken." Connor turned to face her. "You delivered twins in a freezer. Survived 10 hours of hypothermia. Testified against your abuser. Started a new career. Raised 2 babies alone. Built a life from ruins. That's not broken. That's the strongest person I know. You barely know me. I know you've been through hell and came out forgiving. I know you help other survivors without expecting anything back. I know you're kind to people who don't deserve it and ruthless with people who do. I know your first instinct is still to trust even though trust almost killed you. That takes more strength than I'll ever have." Chloe felt something crack in her chest. Not breaking, opening. "I don't know how to trust anymore." Victor made sure of that. "Then we'll figure it out together. However long it takes. However slow you need to go. No pressure, no expectations. Just time." 3 months later, they went on their first real date. Not dinner at Chloe's house with babies present, not strategic planning sessions with lawyers. An actual date. Restaurant, babysitter, adult conversation, the works. Chloe felt nervous in ways she hadn't felt since she was 19, forgot how to flirt, stumbled over words, spilled water on the tablecloth. Connor just smiled, patient, amused in the gentle way that made self-consciousness dissolve. "You're staring at the menu like it's going to attack you." "I forgot how to do this. Date, be normal, exist outside of survival mode." "Then don't think of it as a date. Just 2 people who like each other having dinner. No expectations, no performance. Just us." "I can do just us." They talked about everything except Victor. About Connor's company going public. About Chloe's dream of opening her own marketing agency someday. About books they'd read and places they wanted to visit and the small, ordinary things that made life worth living. Chloe laughed. Really laughed. The sound surprised her. She'd forgotten what joy felt like without fear underneath. What it meant to relax with someone without calculating their mood, their anger, their potential violence. The check came. Connor paid. Chloe didn't fight him on it. The old instinct to refuse help to prove she didn't need anyone had started to soften. Sometimes accepting help wasn't weakness. Sometimes it was just 2 people caring about each other. In the parking lot, Connor walked her to her car. Didn't assume she wanted more, didn't push into her space, just stood at a respectful distance and smiled. I had a good time. Me too. Chloe meant it. We should do this again. I'd like that. Call me when you're ready. He turned to leave. Chloe reached out, caught his hand. He stopped, looked back. Question in his eyes, but no demand. She leaned in, kissed him, quick, chaste, a promise of maybe. When she pulled back, Connor's smile had transformed, soft, genuine, full of something that looked like hope. Good night, Chloe. Good night. She drove home with the radio playing and her heart doing complicated things in her chest. Terror and happiness mixing in ways that felt uncomfortable but real. This was what recovery looked like. Not the absence of fear, the willingness to risk anyway. 6 more months of slow progression. Dates, conversations, kisses that grew longer and deeper but never pushed past Chloe's boundaries. Connor following her pace with patience that felt infinite. He met her parents, her sister, the friends she'd lost touch with during Victor's isolation, Rachel, who'd never left, Dr. Park, who still called to check on the babies, Detective Freeman, who'd become an unexpected ally. Connor fit into her life without demanding space, added himself to the margins and let Chloe decide when to bring him closer to the center. On Sophia and Mason's first birthday, Connor proposed. Nothing flashy, just the 4 of them in Chloe's backyard. Sophia and Mason playing in their inflatable pool, Connor kneeling with a simple ring. I know you don't need me, you've proven that 1,000 times, but I want to be part of your family if you'll have me. I want to adopt Sophia and Mason, be their dad in every way that matters, and I want to wake up next to you for the rest of my life. If you're ready, if you want this, no pressure. Chloe didn't answer immediately. The old instinct to protect herself screamed warnings. But under that something newer. Trust built on months of Connor showing up, respecting boundaries, keeping promises, being exactly who he claimed to be. I need to talk to my therapist first, and Rachel, and my parents. Make sure I'm choosing this for the right reasons. Choosing love instead of need, choosing partnership instead of rescue. Connor stood, slipped the ring back in his pocket. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. 2 weeks later, after sessions with Dr. Linda Huang and long conversations with everyone she trusted, Chloe had her answer. Yes, but only because I want to, not because I have to. And that makes all the difference. The wedding happened 6 months later. Small, intimate, 30 people in Chloe's backyard. Yellow dress because it was her favorite color, and Victor's ghost no longer got to dictate her choices. Sophia and Mason as flower girl and ring bearer, 18 months old and chaotic and perfect. Rachel stood as maid of honor. Theodore Rhodes, Connor's father, as best man. Everyone who'd fought for Chloe when she couldn't fight for herself. Everyone who'd stood beside her while she reclaimed power. The vows were simple. Connor promised to be partner, not rescuer. To stand beside, not in front. To love all 3 of them for the rest of his life. Chloe promised to trust even when fear screamed. To let him in even when walls felt safer. To love him with a heart that had been broken and rebuilt stronger. They kissed. Not their first, but the one that mattered most. The one that said this was real. This was chosen. This was partnership built on honesty instead of control. The reception was joyful in ways Chloe had forgotten existed. Dancing, laughter, people celebrating love instead of mourning loss. Theodore gave a toast that made everyone cry. Chloe, you remind us that strength isn't never falling. It's getting back up. It's fighting when fighting seems impossible. It's choosing life when death seems easier. You're the strongest person I know, and I'm honored to call you daughter. 5 years after the freezer, Chloe stood on a stage in front of 5,000 women. Domestic Violence Awareness Conference, keynote speaker. A role she'd never imagined but had grown into naturally. The lights were bright, the audience expectant. Chloe took a breath. Began. Before we start, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been trapped in a situation you didn't realize was a cage until you tried to leave? Heads nodded throughout the auditorium. Recognition, understanding, shared experience. I survived because I refused to give up, but I also survived because people showed up. a doctor who believed me, a detective who investigated thoroughly, a stranger who noticed when something felt wrong, and a man who understood that love means standing beside someone, not saving them. She paused. Let it sink in. If you're in an abusive relationship, know this. It's not your fault. The cage was built one bar at a time. You didn't see it because you weren't supposed to. That's what they do. They gaslight, manipulate, isolate, make you doubt reality. Her voice strengthened. But you can leave. It's hard, scary, the most dangerous time, but you can do it. There are people who will help, who will believe you, who will stand with you while you fight. You don't need saving. You need support. You need someone to hand you the tools and trust you to use them. Chloe looked out at the sea of faces, saw herself 5 years ago in so many of them, scared, trapped, desperate. Victor thought the freezer would kill me. Instead, it forged me into someone who couldn't be broken. And the man who was supposed to be his enemy became my children's father and my heart's home. She smiled. Real, genuine. The people who try to destroy you often give you exactly the strength you need to rebuild something better. Victor wanted me erased. Instead, I built a life so full he doesn't even register as a footnote. That's the best revenge, not hurting them back, living so well they become irrelevant. The applause was thunderous, standing ovation, 5,000 women on their feet, cheering, crying, finding courage in shared survival. After the speech, women lined up to share their stories. Thank her. Say her words gave them permission to hope, to leave, to fight. Chloe hugged each one, listened, believed, provided resources, paid forward the help she'd received. One woman, maybe 60, whispered, "I've been with my husband 40 years. He's never hit me, but he controls everything. Money, time, friends." Is that abuse? Yes, that's absolutely abuse. You deserve freedom, autonomy, a life that's yours. 40 years doesn't mean you can't leave. It's never too late. The woman cried. Chloe gave her hotline numbers, shelter contacts, legal resources. Watched her walk away with something new in her shoulders. Hope, maybe. Or just the knowledge that someone believed her. Chloe drove home that evening to chaos. Sophia and Mason, 5 years old now, running through the living room. Connor trying unsuccessfully to cook dinner. Rachel visiting with her new girlfriend. The beautiful mess of family. Connor kissed her hello. How was the conference? Good, hard, important. I met a woman who's been trapped for 40 years. Gave her resources. Hope she uses them. She will. Your words have weight. People listen when you speak because you lived it. You're not theorizing, you're testifying. Sophia tugged on Chloe's dress. Mama Mason said I can't be the superhero. You can both be superheroes. Superheroes work in teams. Problem solved. Children running off to save imaginary cities. Connor returning to pasta that threatened to boil over. Rachel laughing at something on her phone. Normal. Domestic. Safe. Chloe stood in the kitchen doorway. Watched her life unfold in real time. Thought about Victor in Kinross Correctional Facility, 300 miles away. Life sentence. No parole. He would die there. Alone. Forgotten except as a cautionary tale. Sometimes she wondered if he thought about her. About the family he'd tried to erase. About the fact that Chloe had not only survived but thrived. Built a career. Raised healthy children. Found love with his greatest enemy. Created something beautiful from the ruins he'd intended. She hoped it haunted him. Hoped every day in that cell reminded him that his victim had won. But mostly she didn't think about Victor at all. He'd stolen 5 years. He didn't get another second. That night, after kids were asleep and Rachel had gone home and the house was quiet, Chloe and Connor sat on the back porch. Their ritual. Their time. Their peace. "What are you thinking?" Connor always asked, never demanded, just gentle curiosity. That Victor wanted to erase me, wanted me dead and forgotten. Instead, I built a life so full he's barely a footnote. That's the greatest revenge, not destruction, irrelevance. Connor took her hand. He thought he'd won, thought he'd planned the perfect crime. But he underestimated you, underestimated your will to survive, underestimated how strong you really are. I underestimated myself too, until I didn't have a choice, until survival was the only option. Then I discovered I was stronger than anyone knew. They sat in comfortable silence, stars overhead, children safe inside, life continuing, life thriving, life winning. Chloe's phone buzzed. Text from Olivia Chen. They'd become friends after the trial, bonded over shared trauma, supported each other's healing. Just left my abusive boyfriend. Called the shelter you recommended. Thank you for giving me courage. Chloe smiled, typed back. So proud of you. You've got this. Call me if you need anything. The cycle continuing, one survivor helping another, one woman's courage inspiring the next. Victor had tried to create victims. Instead, he'd created an army of warriors, women who survived, who healed, who helped others survive and heal. That was his legacy. Not fear, not death, not control, but strength, community, survival, the exact opposite of everything he'd intended. Connor stood, held out his hand. Come to bed. Tomorrow's another day of being unstoppable. Chloe took his hand. Let him pull her up. Walked inside to a house that smelled like home and safety and future. Before turning off the lights, she checked the locks. Once. Down from 4 times 2 years ago. Progress. Healing. Recovery happening in small increments that added up to transformation. In the hallway, she stopped at Sophia and Mason's room. Watched them sleep. 5 years old. Healthy. Happy. No memory of frozen beginnings. No trauma carried forward. Just 2 kids who knew they were loved and safe and wanted. She'd given them that. Not Victor, not fate, not even Connor, though he helped. Chloe had fought for 10 hours in impossible cold. Had delivered them alone. Had kept them alive with nothing but will and body heat and desperate love. She was the reason they existed, the reason they thrived, the reason they would grow up knowing their mother was the strongest person they'd ever meet. Chloe Morrison Rhodes, survivor, advocate, mother, wife, warrior. It makes you wonder how many people are living in cages they don't see, and how can we be the ones who help them find the door? Have you ever discovered strength you didn't know you had, or know someone who survived the impossible? Tell us in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs today. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline 1-800-799-7233. You are not alone. You deserve to be safe.